He was a ghost, an invisible predator who slipped through the cracks of America's law enforcement systems, a man who planned murders years in advance, who traveled the country in silence, stalking victims like a hunter stalking prey, with no discernible motive or pattern. Israel Keyes was the shadow that no one saw coming until he wanted them to. He was a methodical monster. He left behind kill kits buried across the country, caches of weapons, tools, and supplies, waiting to be used when the moment was right. No one knew his name for years. His victims were random, his methods precise. He killed for the thrill of control, and for nearly a decade he evaded capture. Until one mistake, one arrest, brought his terrifying story into the light. The story of Israel Keyes is unlike any other serial killer case in American history. Unlike many who are caught by chance or their ego, Keyes was a hunter who chose victims at random, planned his crimes meticulously, and disappeared without a trace. He was a nightmare dressed as an ordinary man. His confessions revealed chilling details, murders spanning multiple states, complex kill kits buried in remote locations, and a calculated approach that left investigators baffled. And yet, for all the horror he unleashed, many questions remain unanswered. How did Israel Keyes slip under the radar for so long? How many lives did he take? And what drove a man so cold and remorseless to commit such atrocities? Tonight, we dive deep into the shadowy world of Israel Keyes, a monster without a face, whose story has terrified the nation and will haunt you long after this video ends. Before the horror, there was life. Before the darkness, there was light. Samantha Koenig was 18 years old, a daughter, a sister, a friend, a young woman just beginning her journey through the world. She was born in Anchorage, Alaska, a city known for its rugged beauty and close-knit communities. Samantha was a recent high school graduate, attending college courses and working to support herself. Her family remembers her as warm-hearted and ambitious. She dreamed of a future filled with possibility. She worked at a small coffee kiosk inside the Diamond Center Mall, a modest job she took pride in. Her coworkers described her as kind, always with a smile that brightened the long Alaskan winter days. Samantha was the kind of person who made strangers feel seen, a comforting presence behind the counter. On the evening of February 2nd, 2012, Samantha closed the kiosk as usual. The mall was winding down. Few shoppers remained. She prepared to finish her shift alone. Her last words to her family were filled with the same hopeful warmth she had always shown. But that night, something changed. On the night of February 2nd, 2012, the streets of Anchorage grew quiet, cloaked in the heavy stillness of a long Alaskan winter night. The cold air bit at exposed skin. Snow drifted lazily under the dim glow of street lamps. Inside the Diamond Center Mall, the usual bustle of the day had faded into the tired hum of a few last shoppers winding down their errands. The mall's fluorescent lights flickered softly, casting long shadows on the polished floors. Behind the small coffee kiosk near the center of the mall, Samantha Koenig moved through her closing routine. She was alone, a detail that would prove fatal. The routine was familiar: cleaning surfaces, counting the day's earnings, stocking supplies for the next day. She hummed softly, unaware she was being watched. Across the mall, in the quiet corridors and shadowed corners, Israel Keyes moved with chilling purpose, To the casual observer, he was just another face in the crowd, an unremarkable man blending effortlessly into the background. But inside, a predator was calculating every move.
Israel Keyes had a history few knew about. Born in 1978 in Utah, he grew up in a conservative, religious household. From an early age, he displayed signs of an unsettling nature, a quiet intensity, a fascination with control, and a lack of empathy. As a young man, he served in the U.S. Army National Guard, training that taught him discipline, survival skills, and tactical planning. But the soldier's order would become twisted in his mind. After leaving the military, Keyes drifted across the country, working odd jobs, traveling by van, living off the grid. He buried caches of weapons and tools, his infamous kill kits, in remote locations, sometimes hundreds of miles apart. These kill kits contained everything he might need to kidnap, torture, or murder a victim, all hidden to evade detection.
That night, Keyes chose Samantha Koenig because she was alone and vulnerable. He had surveilled the mall for days, learning the rhythms of the employees and customers. As Samantha cleaned the kiosk, Keyes quietly approached. Security footage would later reveal a man in a dark hoodie entering the mall and pausing near the kiosk, but the grainy black and white video could not capture the horror about to unfold. The attack was swift and brutal. Keyes forced his way behind the counter. Samantha's pleas and struggles were silenced quickly. There was no hesitation. With practiced precision, he subdued her, dragging her out of sight from passers-by. His van, nondescript and equipped with dark windows, was parked nearby, ready. He forced Samantha inside, her fate sealed.
For the next hours, Keyes drove deep into the Alaskan wilderness. He was a man who knew how to disappear, how to blend with a landscape and leave no trace behind. In a remote area miles from civilization, Keyes carried out his final act of cruelty. He killed Samantha Koenig. His method was clinical, designed to minimize noise, leave minimal evidence, and prevent identification. He buried her body in a shallow grave, covering it hastily with snow and earth. Samantha's disappearance sparked an immediate and frantic search. Friends and family reported her missing. Police combed the area, following every possible lead. But Israel Keyes had planned meticulously. There were no fingerprints, no witnesses, no identifiable vehicle. He vanished as quickly as he had appeared. What made Israel Keyes especially terrifying was his detachment. He did not kill for passion or rage. He killed because he could, because he wanted to exert control, because the thrill of the hunt consumed him. His victims were not chosen for who they were, but for when and where they were vulnerable, and Samantha was just one name on a long list. In the days that followed, the community mourned. Samantha Koenig's bright future was stolen in an instant, but no one yet knew the full scale of Keyes's dark reign. The disappearance of Samantha Koenig sent shockwaves through Anchorage and beyond. Her family and friends were desperate for answers. The police launched an immediate investigation, scouring every inch of the mall and surrounding areas. But from the start, the case was a frustrating puzzle. No eyewitnesses had seen anything suspicious. No security footage captured clear evidence of the abduction. No physical clues, no footprints, no fibers, no abandoned belongings. Detective Steve Johnson the lead investigator on Samantha's case, Leader described the early days as a frustrating, dead-end maze. He and his team interviewed dozens of people, employees, shoppers, neighbors, looking for any scrap of information that could break the silence. "We had nothing concrete," Johnson said. "No suspects, no motive, no pattern. Just a young woman who vanished into thin air." With no clear suspects, the police focused on gathering forensic evidence. They searched the mall's parking lot, nearby streets, and forested areas outside Anchorage. But Israel Keyes had left nothing. His kill kits, hidden tools, weapons, and even vehicles were designed to avoid exactly this kind of discovery. Meanwhile, the media took hold of the story. News outlets ran stories on Samantha's disappearance, appealing to the public for tips. The community came together in vigils and prayer circles, hoping for a miracle. But as days turned to weeks, the pressure mounted. The case grew cold. Across the country, law enforcement agencies were grappling with a different mystery. Several disappearances and unsolved murders in disparate states puzzled investigators. Each seemed isolated, unrelated crimes with no apparent connection. But beneath the surface, a dark thread was beginning to emerge. Israel Keyes had been careful to avoid detection. He moved quietly between states, selecting victims at random. His kill kits were hidden deep in forests, deserts, and remote areas. Tools ready to be used and then hidden again. Unbeknownst to the Anchorage police, investigators in other states were quietly chasing shadows, hoping to piece together a pattern. Back in Anchorage, detectives followed every lead, no matter how faint. They questioned acquaintances, tracked phone records, analyzed surveillance footage again and again, but nothing fit. The randomness of the crime scene and the lack of evidence made it feel like searching for a ghost. Among the initial suspects was a man named Mark Turner, a local with a criminal history. Turner was arrested on unrelated charges but questioned about Samantha's disappearance. However, no evidence linked him to the crime, and he was eventually cleared. Another suspect was a brief acquaintance Samantha had mentioned to friends. Again, police found no proof of involvement. The investigation stalled, leaving law enforcement frustrated and families devastated. The case faded from the headlines, but not from the hearts of those who refused to give up. Meanwhile, Israel Keyes remained free, his trail cold, and his method perfect. Keyes' ability to evade capture was no accident. He had planned for years, carefully burying kill kits across the country. He chose victims far from his home state to avoid connections. He traveled in silence, always prepared. In the months after Samantha's disappearance, police began to suspect they were dealing with a serial predator, but they had no idea how vast his crimes truly were.
In the hunt for Israel Keyes, the path was littered with dead ends and false trails. As investigators dug deeper into Samantha Koenig's disappearance, they faced a frustrating landscape of red herrings, suspects who seemed promising but ultimately led nowhere. The randomness of Keyes' crimes made it nearly impossible to pin him down. One early suspect was a man named Mark Turner. A local with a violent past, Turner seemed to fit the profile of someone capable of such a crime. When police detained him for questioning, media outlets speculated he was the likely perpetrator. But Turner had an alibi. Cell phone records and surveillance footage placed him miles away at the time. He was released, his name forever linked to a case he did not commit. Then there was another man, a brief acquaintance of Samantha's, known to friends as someone with a volatile temper. Rumors swirled, neighbors whispered, but no concrete evidence emerged. As weeks passed, social media exploded with theories, some grounded, many wild. Online sleuths pointed fingers at anyone with the slightest connection to Samantha. Vigilantes claimed to have spotted the culprit, but none of these leads bore fruit. The police found themselves chasing shadows. The lack of motive, pattern, or signature made it impossible to narrow the suspect pool. Theories abounded: a robbery gone wrong, a stalker, a random act of violence, but each theory crumbled under scrutiny. Meanwhile, similar disappearances in other states baffled law enforcement. A young couple vanished in New York. A lone traveler disappeared in Washington. None of these cases had obvious links. But lurking beneath was a dark commonality: Israel Keyes. He moved with stealth and intent, selecting victims far from home, erasing connections. His kill kits, buried caches containing weapons, tools, and supplies, were scattered across the country, allowing him to act anywhere, anytime. Investigators struggled to connect the dots. Jurisdictional boundaries, lack of communication between agencies, and Keyes' careful planning obscured the truth. Back in Anchorage, frustration mounted. The case went cold, but the authorities refused to give up. As months passed, the chilling realization grew: the killer was not local. He was a ghost crossing states and disappearing without a trace. This understanding set the stage for the most shocking breakthrough yet.
Months after Samantha Koenig vanished into the Alaskan night, a breakthrough came. Not from Alaska, but from the other side of the country. In March 2012, law enforcement officers in New York made an arrest that would send shockwaves through the nation and unravel the chilling puzzle surrounding the mysterious disappearances and murders stretching across the United States. It began with the disappearance of William and Lorraine Currier, a young couple who vanished while on a cross-country trip. Their car was found abandoned in upstate New York, an eerie silence enveloping the scene. No sign of the couple, no clues, no leads. Then came the arrest. Israel Keyes, the man who had lived quietly for years in the shadows, was taken into custody on an unrelated weapons charge. But soon, suspicions grew. Keyes was interrogated. The man behind the cold eyes, calm, composed, unnervingly detached, began to speak. Not in bursts of frantic confession, but in cold, measured detail. He admitted to killing the Curriers. But that was only the beginning. As investigators pushed deeper, Keyes dropped a bombshell. He confessed to multiple other murders, including that of Samantha Koenig. He described in chilling detail the kill kits, caches of weapons, tools, and supplies he had buried in remote locations across the country, waiting for the perfect moment. Some were hidden in the forests of Washington state. Others lay beneath the soil of Utah deserts. Each kill kit was a toolbox for murder, allowing him to strike anywhere without arousing suspicion. Keyes explained how he carefully planned every move years in advance, how he traveled in silence, crossing hundreds of miles to find unsuspecting victims far from home, how his crimes were not random acts of violence, but calculated performances of control. The confessions sent shockwaves through law enforcement. Here was a man who had evaded detection not because he was lucky, but because he was meticulous beyond imagination. For Samantha Koenig's family, the news was devastating, their worst fears confirmed. Yet even as Keyes confessed, he offered no remorse, no apology, only chilling rationale. "I did it because I could," he said. The coldness of those words echoed through interrogation rooms and headlines alike. More evidence began to surface. Investigators located several of Keyes' kill kits, each a grim testament to his premeditation. Among them weapons, restraints, maps, and even detailed notes. These discoveries connected the dots that had eluded investigators for months. A pattern emerged: a killer without a face. But despite the breakthrough,
Many questions remained. How many victims had Israel Keyes claimed? How many more kill kits lay buried, waiting to be uncovered? And could justice truly be served for the countless families left shattered in his wake? The breakthrough was a turning point, the beginning of a dark reckoning.
Inside a small interrogation room, bathed in harsh fluorescent light, sat Israel Keyes, calm, collected, almost chillingly detached. He was a man who had committed unspeakable horrors, yet appeared eerily composed, as if recounting mundane events. The detectives watched in stunned silence as Keyes spoke, not with remorse, but with cold calculation. He confessed to at least 11 murders across the country, each one meticulously planned, each one executed with chilling precision. He described stalking victims months in advance, choosing the moment, the location, the weapon. He took pride in his ability to evade detection. But what made Keyes truly terrifying was his utter lack of empathy. When asked why he killed, he offered a simple answer: "Because I could." His words hung in the room like a toxic fog. Keyes revealed how he buried kill kits in remote locations, some hundreds of miles apart, allowing him to disappear between crimes. He spoke of crossing state lines to avoid suspicion, of selecting victims based on convenience rather than connection. His confessions revealed a disturbing psychological portrait, not a madman driven by rage, but a predator driven by control and power. He was methodical, almost surgical in his approach. Despite the evidence and confessions, Keyes refused to cooperate fully. He withheld information about some victims, leaving families and investigators in agonizing uncertainty. Then on December 2nd, 2012, just months after his arrest, the nightmare took another dark turn. Israel Keyes was found dead in his prison cell. He had taken his own life. The news sent shockwaves through law enforcement and the public. With his death, many believed the true truth would never emerge. The man who had terrorized the nation, who had eluded justice for so long, was gone, leaving behind only fragments of his terrible legacy. Keyes' suicide denied victims' families the closure they desperately sought. It left unanswered questions about the true extent of his crimes. How many lives had he stolen? How many cold cases would forever remain unsolved? His death marked the end of one chapter, but the haunting legacy of Israel Keyes remains.
Israel Keyes is dead, but his shadow still lingers. The truth about his crimes is fragmented, a puzzle with many missing pieces. In the aftermath of his suicide, law enforcement scrambled to uncover the full extent of his dark legacy. The kill kits he left behind, weapons, tools, and chilling notes became grim breadcrumbs for investigators. Each discovery brought hope for answers, but many questions remain unanswered. Families of missing persons hold on to hope, hoping one of those cases might finally be solved. Others live with the unbearable pain of not knowing. Cold cases from across the country have been revisited. Some show signs that point to Keyes. Others remain stubbornly silent. Experts in criminal psychology study Keyes' mind, trying to understand how a man could compartmentalize such evil. His lack of remorse, his calculated cruelty, and his methodical planning defy easy explanation. Was he born a monster? Or was something in his life that created this darkness? Justice for his victims remains elusive. Keyes' death denied many families the closure they deserved. No trial, no sentencing, just silence. But the law enforcement agencies continue to search, to investigate, to remember. The story of Israel Keyes is a stark reminder. Evil can wear many faces. It can hide in plain sight. And sometimes it is the shadows we never see that are the most dangerous. As we close this chapter, we must remember the victims, their names, their lives, their stolen futures. Samantha Koenig was just one of many. Each deserves to be remembered. Each deserves justice. The story of Israel Keyes may have ended, but the search for truth and for justice continues. Thank you for watching. If you found this video informative and thought-provoking, please like, share, and subscribe for more true crime documentaries. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear what you think about this chilling case.